and get started. Well, welcome everyone to how to simplify your sales process at scale with Aptitude and with our guests from Formstack. We can jump over and do intros on our side as well. But before that, what we're talking about today, so the first piece up is why your sales process matters. If you're either a salesperson managing a sales team or on the ops side, I'm sure that you appreciate this a lot. For other folks that are outside of those teams, we'll explain to you why it's incredibly important. We'll also talk through how to evaluate your current existing sales process. We have some really cool stuff to run through of hands-on tactical exercises with Justin of cool stuff that he's built with Formstack, and then some forward-looking stuff of cool stuff you guys will be able to do as well. So let's go ahead and do intros on our side. I'm Connor. I'm CEO of Aptitude. We're a RevOps consulting firm, and we're sort of putting this on. And then from the Formstack team, we have both Justin and Zach. So Justin, maybe I'll let you do an intro first, and then we'll hand it over to Zach.
Yeah. Hey, everybody. Nice to meet you. Justin Jackson. I'm at Formstack. I work on the partnerships team here. So I work with our consulting and technology partners, helping them to understand how to use Formstack products, getting them officially certified, and serving as sort of a first line of support for those that are working with Formstack products. Zach, I'll go ahead and pass it to you.
And I'm Zach. I head up the partner team at Formstack. Partnerships at Formstack are our technology partners, which we have integrations with, Salesforce, HubSpot being two of those. And then Aptitude 8 is one of our great consulting partners. Aptitude 8 builds great solutions using the modular kind of Formstack suite. And that's maybe a correction on what Connor said. Connor said Justin built the solutions we're going to talk about today. In fact, the Aptitude team has done some great work, even a recent Salesforce data collection, document generation, digital signature use case using Formstack for Salesforce. So credit to Connor's team, and we're excited to kind of peel that back today with everybody.
Absolutely. And I think to further emphasize these guys, Justin's one of my favorite people to bat back and forth ideas and solutions with, and helps us unstick things. And Zach is fantastic. And we're Formstack customers, we're Formstack partners, we're big fans of the product across the board. Before we jump into some of the hands-on details, I think a good place to start is why your sales process matters. So why should you guys care about any of these things as a starting point, and where, when you're looking at sort of how to eliminate friction and sort of improve the sales experience that you can deliver, and why that's important. So I think some of the first things to jump into, and I'll speak to some of these and then get your guys' perspective as well, but common process traps that we run into all the time. I think with customers that we work with, we always see that we have lost selling time. So when people have to do manual exercises, when there's duplicate data entry, when they're doing sort of additional work aside from directly engaging with customers, you're essentially paying your people that you want to be able to have customer facing, interacting with your end customers, delivering an amazing experience, focused on doing menial sort of data entry type of tasks that you can eliminate. Of course, that also leads to some data gaps. So you start having with manual process and manual sort of creation of documents, creation of forms, you're losing a lot of that data along the way. And it's also really difficult to maintain process. I think one of the biggest things that we see, we do a lot of RevOps audits. We do a lot of work with a bunch of different companies. And what always happens is you have this vision of, here's how the company operates, here's how we do things that managers and leadership envision. And what the frontline folks do is not only radically different, but it's different person to person. And so it becomes really hard to improve and iterate and optimize how that experience works when everyone's doing it with a completely different approach. And then also duplicated efforts. So we typically see, handoffs from marketing to sales to onboarding to CS, that everyone's sort of gathering the same information and entering in data in multiple places. And that skews how they end up being able to manage a lot of these pieces. Zach and Justin, opening up to you guys of either areas that you've seen this, where you guys have seen this make a significant difference in some of your work, or anything on your side.
Yeah, I think you've hit the nail on the head here, Connor. So much of this is about the process foundation. So as a sales rep, as a sales team, I don't want to have siloed systems. I don't want to have data in all different places. And I think that's something sales teams can all relate to. So our philosophy is, number one, you need a CRM that's your home, whether that's Salesforce, HubSpot, and then having a process built around that for everything a sales rep's doing. data they're collecting, actually putting more onus on others to feed that data in a consistent way. And then also things like generating documents. So I think you've definitely sort of outlined the things to watch out for. And another root cause symptom with that is, disparate systems, disconnected process, as kind of root causes to be mindful of.
And
I think that takes us. Yeah, go for it, Justin. Sorry.
I was just going to say, I'll just add that it adds value not just for the sales process, the sales teams, but as you mentioned, Connor, like also the customer success, the people that are onboarding your customers, treating them throughout their entire life cycle. If you are able to make sure that you don't have those data gaps, that you don't have those inconsistencies in your processes, it makes the overall customer life cycle so much better.
I think taking us to kind of the next slide here, I think something that this is so applicable to us about when we think about, what is revenue operations? What does that look like? And it's really fun for us because we're seeing a term that I think we were a year ago being like, hey, this is what we do. And I was like, what does that mean? And like now the market, I think generally the conversation is scalable, which is awesome. But ultimately, when you look at your revenue operations function, whether it's a dedicated team, whether it's an individual, whether it's someone flexing into that role in addition to their core functions, or whether you're working with kind of an outside provider, is ultimately between your customer and your go-to-market team. So your service, your marketing, your sales folks sits your revenue operations infrastructure. And it ultimately comes down to how do you deliver that customer experience? What is it like to buy something from you? And I think when we talk about sales process, we always look at it from, sure, how can we eliminate steps? How can we increase conversion rates along the funnel? But ultimately think about it from the lens of the customer. How do you make it really easy to buy from you? And how do you make that buying experience something that differentiates you in the market? And what we see all too often, and I think something we were doing recently, I had to buy a new bar top because when we moved, our bar top broke, and I ended up not going with the person who gave us the lowest price or anything else, but the person who just made it really easy to interact with them. They were responsive to things. They intook all of our information. It wasn't like I sent them what I needed and then I had to fill it out in some other form. And the more that you can sort of streamline and eliminate friction from that experience, the better it's going to be for your end customer. And then the more effective your go-to-market teams are going to be, which is where I think that the value of this is so important. Cool. Let's talk about how to evaluate your current sales process, and then we can jump into some cool stuff we built and put together with the Formstack team. Just really good examples of this. And then if you have things you're trying to build or examples of sales process issues you're trying to solve, we'd love to hear them and sort of workshop them as a group as well. So I think when you're going into where your sales process is right now, some things to really start with in that conversation to kind of make the output of this actionable is how much time do your reps spend doing non-selling activities? What are the things that they are spending updating the CRM, coordinating meetings with other people? Like where are you adding friction that's removing them from being able to interact with your customer? And how can you be able to either automate, eliminate, or sort of, if you're forcing them to engage in some of these behaviors, make sure that that's high value and it's producing elements across other parts to your sales process. Also looking at where you duplicate and collect information more than once. I think both frustrations from the customer angle of, I spent all this time filling out a marketing form, then I spent all this time talking to a sales rep, and then I spent all this time talking to my implementation or the onboarding people, and then I spent all this time talking to the CS people, and I'm telling everyone the same thing multiple times, or they're sending me intake requests that don't map back to the core CRM function, and people are building sort of disparate processes that don't align back. I'd also look at what information is valuable downstream that's not captured. So your sales reps are interacting with your customers. They're gathering valuable insights. Where are they not capturing that? How is that not making it into your system? And how are you missing out on some of those key details? Not only important for your business to know that the details of sort of that customer interaction, but also for teams that are going to need to interact with that customer later, know what that customer's preferences are. What have they bought? What are they sort of trying to achieve? And then the last piece that I think is really applicable to the Formstack guys and their documents product is, what documents are you building and generating? And we see this all the time of, we use, this Google Docs template, or we go and edit this Excel file or this Word doc, and we manually go and update this with all the information. And I search through my email for the last time my manager sent it to me and try to find the the right version. And then I update that and I email that to the customer. And that takes a ton of time and energy, and it doesn't get tracked or managed or attached to the rest of the systems. And I think if you start by looking at these pieces, it's a very good way to sort of understand and identify where the gaps in that sales process exist, that you can start to kind of address them. Anything from you guys, either in addition to or a piece of this, before we jump into some examples of ways that we've solved this so far?
Yeah, man, you guys do a great job with frameworks, and I think you've done a nice job laying it out here. So really nothing to add.
Cool. Let's jump into the most fun part, and we can do some examples. So we're gonna hand the screen share over to Justin and hope that we don't have any IT hiccups along the way, and we'll go through some cool examples of cool ways we've solved some of this in sales processes we've built on top of Formstack. And I think these are real examples, real customers, real solutions that we put together. And if you guys have things you're working on, please throw them in the chat. And after sort of Justin's example, we'll chat through some of the use cases you guys are trying to put together.
Yeah, great, Connor. Thanks for that. Really, two examples that I've got available to show today. Number one, how are you getting data to your CRM, your key place where you hold all of your information? So Formstack has the ability to have digital forms here so that you can collect that data and have it automatically integrate with HubSpot, with Salesforce, whatever your CRM is. We can send the data once it's submitted from your end users to that key system. And so here we're talking about making the sales process easy. One thing that I always think about when I think about working with a business super easy is I always think back to Amazon. 3 years ago, I wanted to cancel my Amazon Prime membership. I called them up, and the first thing the first option that came up on the phone was, it said, "Hey, press 1 to cancel your Amazon Prime membership." And I was like, wow, that was the easiest thing I've ever done in my life. Guess what? I'm now an Amazon Prime user again, because they made that process so easy to cancel that it made me as a consumer want to do more business with them, because they made it easy. And so here we have an example where you can have a digital form for your users to come and request a quote. They want to buy your services. Well, let's make that easy for them. Let's let them come to your website. Let's let them put this information in, make that request. You can then send them a document with Formstack documents to send you a quote. And so we've got Zach Jeffers here, a mixture of Zach and Connor's names. And you can see we've got the company name, we've got the billing address. When it comes to working with Formstack, we can also pre-fill this information to your forms. And so that's going to make it an easier process for your customers as they come to redo business with you. You could pre-fill that information, and then from there, they just have to review, verify, and update what is on that form, what you're collecting from them. Additionally, we're going to go to the next page here where they can select their products. Well, how soon do you want this product? Do you want it ASAP? Do you want it next week? Maybe 2 to 3 months? What's your time frame look like? And so we're really personalizing this and giving them options to really make that experience better for them. Additionally, here, this is somebody coming to purchase some HubSpot products. So they're going to purchase, maybe they want marketing, maybe they also want HubSpot sales. They need 2 different products. What we can also do here is, let's say they need 20 licenses, 20 users. We need to also figure out how many records they need to have in their system. And then from there, Formstack can actually do on-demand calculations to give your user sort of a brief idea of what that might cost them in their business. So if I were to go to the next page here, you'll see, well, we've kind of got an idea of maybe this is going to cost us about $50,000 because we've got 20 users, we've got 50,000 records here. And if I were to come here, maybe switch the number of records, switch the users up to 35, that's going to change our overall quote number that we're then offering this user. So you're able to give them an idea of what they might have to pay for something before they actually have to engage in that type of experience.
I think something to just tap on for you, Justin, as well, is all that's configurable also, right? So you can set different values and all those pieces to build sort of in like a WYSIWYG type of editor, one of these experiences. You don't need to be a developer to create something like this. Just being sort of anyone with some light administrative capabilities, you can really build a very cool experience.
That's exactly right. So if I were to switch over to this tab here, you can see on the left-hand side, I have the ability to choose which type of field I want to bring in. So here I've got a company name, but maybe I also want to bring in a number field. I want someone to be able to make a designation of a certain value. That's kind of what we did here with the number of users, the number of records. And then from there, we're doing a calculation, which Formstack allows you to take, I'm doing the number of records, multiplying that times the number of users. And this is just some basic arithmetic that all I have to do is select the field that I want to select. From there, I can then choose my basic arithmetic options here to be able to do that calculation. So you don't have to be a developer to do this stuff. It's all drag and drop. If I were to bring a new field in, you can, let's say we want to have somebody sign off on this as well while they're, signing off on this quote. They'd be able to come here, sign directly on the form, and then it automatically updates. So if I were to go back to the live form here, jump back over to the last page, it didn't have a signature, but now it does. So it happens instantaneously for you to be able to make those edits to your ways of collecting data, which from there, we have the ability to have all this stuff integrated. So you can see here, I've got a HubSpot integration. I've got a Salesforce integration. So you can really tell that data to go wherever you want that data to go. And just to give you a brief example, if I were to come here, on the left-hand side, this would be your HubSpot fields. It literally loads here in Formstack. So wherever your CRM or wherever you're sending this data, these are the fields inside of your integration service. And then from there, on the right-hand side, I'm just telling in this drop-down menu what data points go to where in that specific system. So, I want to tell the company name to go to the account name in my CRM. I want to tell the contact name to go to the contact name. It's literally just as simple as that when it comes to mapping this stuff up. Before we switch over to the other example, just want to pause and see if there's any questions in the chat. Looks like just Connor and Zach giving you guys some more information there. Great. Okay. So yeah, if you guys have questions, feel free to pose those in the chat.
I mean, Justin, I'll add a bit. Like the comment I posted was a phrase I saw recently. In this case, it was talking about healthcare, but the digital front door. And I was thinking of your Amazon example. So ways that your customers maybe are providing you information and giving them a way to do that. And in this case, a form being a good thing. Sometimes forms might be seen as adding administration, but you can make it really simple, really user-friendly. Doesn't have to be a lot of information, but hey, you want to do something. You want to kick off a new process as a customer. You want to become a customer. Intake process, looking at how that can actually be a win-win, creating ways for customers to provide you information. So it's easy for them, self-serve. And for you as the business, it's coming into your systems cleanly. And then, things are flowing from there. So think acceleration, think speed of doing business, think self-serve for customers, and enabled through something that is no code or low code, so it can be deployed probably way faster than you might have imagined.
I think something just to tack on to that I love about your guys' product and why we like working with it, and then we use it for a bunch of our internal processes, is the speed with which you can create some of this stuff is awesome. And I think everyone wants to create this self-serve customer experience, and I think we find a lot of customers that are like, oh, well, we need to have our product team go build all this functionality, and we need to go get our web team and have them create all of these pieces. And what I love about the Formstack suite of products is that someone on the ops side or someone on the admin side or someone who's just like an enterprising manager or a director or VP of a non-technical function can come in here and be like, okay, here is a problem that we have to solve. Here's some friction that we create for a customer. They can quickly go and create something like this. And so, and like I've created stuff for our team, and then our ops people will be like, wait, what is this? I was like, oh yeah, I built that this morning. It's super cool. Like now we can update our project statuses with this form, and isn't that great? And it's very quick that you can build this type of stuff. And I think a lot of companies get mired in creating a lot of complexity in solving this problem. And I think the elegance and simplicity with which someone can approach this without a lot of technical background, I think is really the secret sauce.
Yep, Connor, that's exactly why people choose Formstack, because it allows business users to solve problems really quickly. I've been learning some HTML, some CSS, some JavaScript. HTML forms are so cumbersome to build, and Formstack allows you to be able to build and collect data in a second. It allows you to take data from a CRM, from some sort of database where you want to take data, merge that into a document, send it out for digital signature, and build that in a couple hours, a couple minutes. So you hit the nail on the head. It allows business users to do their jobs and be successful doing their jobs really quickly. Couple other things I'll show you in here. You can have events automatically create on your Google Calendar. So if you want a user to be able to create an appointment, maybe you're a loan processor or a loan originator where you need to be able to have events be created on your calendar instantaneously from a form submission. It works with Calendly. It works with Microsoft Outlook. You're able to really collect and create events super easily. We have all of these CRM integrations here where you can send data to HubSpot, Pardot, Salesforce. You can create tickets in Zendesk from a form submission. And then from there, we also have, maybe you want to have a row in a Google Sheet create. You want to have a document generate from every form submission. We have the ability to take data that is collected directly from the web, merge that into a document, send out a loan contract or something like that instantaneously. Go ahead, Connor.
I was just going to tack on. I was in a conversation yesterday, and this is where I think boiling things down, especially in the ops side of you don't need to do super robust solution on day one. You can prototype something, and I think you guys can obviously scale into robust solutions as well. But one of the things that came up in a conversation yesterday, the customers, they were trying to manage deal like lead routing, and they have different teams in different time zones, and they have PTO components. And we were going through all of this. It's like, well, how do you guys capture like the PT, like where does the PTO go and how does that happen? And they're like, oh, well, we don't really have a way to do that, but we want to reference it. One of the things that jumped to mind as you were showing this is like, you could build out a PTO request form that adds to a Google Calendar and like does all of that. And you could do that right now and solve that problem, which I think is super cool versus, oh, we have to go get an HR platform and we need to like roll this whole thing out. And I think tools that empower that eliminate some of those pieces also, which I think is great.
Love that. Love that. Great use case. The second scenario that I wanted to show you all is actually specific to Salesforce. Same thing, we've got a request for quote, right? But this product also is native to Salesforce. So if you're a Salesforce user, you can download it from the App Exchange and work with Formstack products directly within your Salesforce work. And what I also wanted to show you all was an example here where we're generating a document. And so since we're talking about the sales process, why don't we show you something about sending out a quote that someone can sign and officially work with your business and make a purchase. And so here I've got cloud enterprises. They're signing up to do with their Salesforce implementation. Within Salesforce here, you can see we have some information just based off of their business, the opportunity, how we're going to work with them. And we've got 3 products here. And so directly here in Salesforce, you're able to generate a button with Formstack to send this document out, and you're going to send this quote out as a sales user. You can have this be automated and go out through an automated fashion. And so here we're going to send out this quote. I'm going to click merge now. What that's going to do is it's going to take the data from your Salesforce opportunity. It's going to merge it into Formstack documents into a neatly formatted PDF template to show you all the information that is specific to sending this quote out to your specific customer. And then from there, it's going to be delivered to your inbox via Formstack Sign, which is our digital signature product. So that should show up here in my inbox. From there, you can see I can have a logo on here like Formstack. I could put my own personal business logo. This is all customizable. I could have a custom message on this page for my user to give them some instruction before signing this quote. And then they're going to review and sign that document. And so you'll see as we open up here, the data comes in. Mike Bradley, his information, that this is all coming from our CRM, from Salesforce. Formstack can dynamically create more rows in this table based off of how many products. So you saw, if I go back to the record here, we've got 3 products. Well, that's why we have 3 rows in our table, because there's 3 products selected. And then from there, we can do things like calculations and then officially get this signed document off. So Mike could type his name, he could draw his signature if he wanted. And then from there, he's going to submit that document. We can have several scenarios. So let's say that Connor or Zach needed to sign this document after me. I could have it then kick off to one of those individuals as well. And then 2 things are going to happen once that document is officially signed. Every person that's part of that signing flow is going to get a copy in his or her inbox, where you'll see the imprint of their signature. And then we also give you this audit trail, which gives you things like date and time stamps, IP addresses, to give you that sort of legally binding court level type signature that you're looking for. And this is, what a lot of businesses have to move towards during COVID, so that they can, do this stuff online, do it digitally, as opposed to having to get a wet court level type signature. And then additionally, while every user gets a copy in his or her inbox, we can also have that route back to your CRM. So if it's Salesforce, if it's HubSpot, if it's Infusionsoft, once that signed version is signed, we can have it then come and live back in your CRM system. I'm not sure I have the files up as oh, there it is. I'm not sure if I had the files up as a related attachment here. But then same thing, you can see the signature, this legally binding type document has been saved back into our CRM here, being Salesforce in this scenario. But again, it can go pretty much anywhere. Zach, go ahead.
No, don't want to interrupt your flow. I'll jump in with a thought, but if you're in the middle of something,
no, you're good. You're good. Go ahead.
I was just gonna, kind of zooming out. Like that first topic we talked about was like no code citizen automator. Connor as a CEO being able to like build solutions and focused on how information's coming in. And now to me, like this category of solution it's really data-driven documents, building documents for your business off of data and the power of that is number one, automation and speed of building things more quickly that are coming from the sales team. And then number 2 is the insight that you're able to achieve from that data. There was a manufacturing customer that implemented Formstack documents, and what they told me is, old way was, building documents through Excel spreadsheets, and now moving into their CRM and then using Formstack documents to build off of CRM. It gave their supply chain way more visibility into demand. Like what are people asking for? What's coming down the pike? So there's tremendous operational benefits to building documents through data in the way that you're showing here, Justin.
Yeah,
and we've seen, I think, sorry, go for it, Justin. Okay.
No, you're good. Go ahead.
I think one of the things that's super cool that we run into a lot with this as well is really awesome other use cases for generating docs from your CRM data. So we've seen this used for creating a reporting packet for a customer on sort of performance data for a month for like ad agency type of flows, or we've seen this used to create a more than just a quote. Like you can add sort of more of like a proposal type format with content on here's what you requested, here's what you're looking for, order forms, like any part of this process that you may need to send some of these documents over, and being able to generate a lot of those. And also and I think the genius for some of your guys' acquisition strategy and all these other pieces, larger to Formstack generally, but the forms on the intake component, and then being able to generate these documents at the back end from that, I think really solves both sides of that problem, where you're adding data into your CRM and then leveraging that data to deliver that customer experience.
Yeah. I think, you keep hitting the nail on the head, Connor. I think that's the phrase of the meeting here. And I wanted to give everybody just a quick, look as to what this looks like from a template perspective. This is really it. This is the same quote that you just all generated and sent to my inbox. And essentially, these are just placeholders. You match the syntax to match and make sure that it fits with this product. And then from there, you can tell your data where to go in this template. That's how I'm able to tell the email, the company name, the billing street, to go where I want it to go in this document. And then from there, it dynamically created 3 rows in my table here because I had 3 products set up, which the nice thing about this product is that you don't have to know the syntax. You don't have to be a programmer. We have simple inserts over here. You can do a merge field and call it state, and it'll do the syntax for you. You can do an if statement. You don't have to be a programmer to understand how if statements work here and say if our state equals California, and it'll do the syntax for you to do conditional logic to really build this template. And then from there, you just got to tell your data where to go in this template. So it's super simple. You can send these documents pretty much anywhere you want them to go. In this scenario, because I was generating a quote, we sent it to Formstack Sign so we could get digitally signed. And then because it was going back into Salesforce, I wanted it to go to Salesforce. But we have tons of deliveries here for you to really send this data pretty much anywhere you need it to go. So I can send it to all of these different CRM systems. Maybe I want my documents to live in Google Drive or Dropbox. These are just the username and password authentication to your account to tell the document where you want it to go once it's generated. We can even send these through physical mail. So we work with tons of nonprofits that, they want to send end of year donor summaries to their donors through physical mail. And so that just makes sense for tax purposes to be able to send that to them through physical mail. And then, obviously you can send it to someone's email address. Businesses still use fax in the healthcare, manufacturing, legal spaces. And then, if we don't have an out-of-the-box integration, we can send it to where you want it to go via webhook here. So this is, the custom scenario if we have to send it to a custom integration that we don't have. But this product also has integrations with things like Zapier, like Integromat, to be able to really deliver that document wherever you want that document to go. Connor, Zach, that's pretty much everything I had planned to show for our workshop here. I hope our guests appreciate that, and I'd love to be with them and walk them through the products and help them figure out how they can really streamline their sales processes at some point as well.
Cool. I will let Caitlin, who's been silent to date, but monitoring our Q&A panel for some questions that I know she has that she's seeing come in. And then if you have additional ones that you have yet to submit, please do. We'd love to give you our take on.
Yeah, so the first question that I had submitted to me through the Q&A is they're having issues with the billing handoff between sales and their finance team. Namely, they said issues like trying to designate a main point of contact, the correct address, the amount, and then they're also trying to bucket renewals in that as well to find a way to automatically know 12 months from now the renewal will be coming up. And that's been a hard problem for them to solve.
I can jump in first, and then Connor, you may have thoughts too. I guess just reacting to hearing that. First thing that I loved about that question is the word handoff. That is a really great way to think about this. Is where are those departmental handoffs? That is where that no code form concept can come into play. So for the handoff piece of this, I would look at what does that handoff look like? Because that can likely be accomplished through a web form published out of your CRM, pre-filling information ideally so that it's a great experience, more of verify, update, add, and then that becomes your handoff. Handoffs can be hard. Digital forms can make it way easier. It sounded like there might also be something further downstream around the renewal process. And I think that would be more around making sure data is tagged in your CRM, and then thinking about what that recurring automation is further downstream. So I heard 2 opportunities, one on the handoff and then one on whatever is happening from a recurring process standpoint. Connor, how about you?
Yeah, I have lots of ideas on this, but we spend most of our time thinking about these problems. I think one of the first ones is the The finance handoff workflow we run into a lot. I think what always happens is finance, for whatever reason, gets kicked out of the core CRM product and like doesn't get to get value out of it. I think whether it's using tools like Formstack or whether you're going to drive off of email alerts, or you're going to have like finance actually come in and update the system directly, or however you want to manage it. I think being able to have an intake experience from the customer. So have them give you the information that they want. So what's the billing address? Do they want to do invoice? Do they want ACH? Make it easy to capture that information from them as well, instead of sort of like emailing back and forth. I think one of the things that we found in our billing process, and we're still in the process of resolving, but it's true, is that the first time that someone on the finance side ever interacts with us, or we ever intake their preferences, is when we actually send them an invoice. And they're like, wait, who are you? What's going on? Like, you're not in my system. You need to take all of this information. And so delivering an experience where you can capture that information post sale, and then store it on your side, versus they emailed someone their preferences, someone made a note of it, and now every month they're kind of managing it manually, I think goes a long way. On the renewal side, I think dates on the CRM side go a long way. Know when those renewals are coming up, trigger action off of those. One of the things that we've seen, I think Formstack would fit into this nicely as well, which is not something that I had considered. I think it was someone at HubSpot was telling us how they did sort of like account health assessments driven by the CSM as opposed to the end customer. And they would fill those out and do those. And they were all in like a Google Doc template outside of the core CRM. And so it's like every year, every quarter, every year, they're going through and filling all these out. And then you're going and referencing something else. And then someone leaves and that file is only shared with like a couple of people and now no one can access it. And so I think you can manage and automate a lot of those processes. And the more that you can create and drive what your business process is from the CRM. And then I think the adding tools that write back and also generate materials from goes a really long way, because it moves it to something of, here's how we do this. Is it working? Is it not working? Is it broken? To here is a process we can measure its impact and efficacy, and we can iterate and change it over time.
Cool. Are you guys ready for the next one?
Let's do it.
Cool. This next one is specifically about up and cross-selling. So it sounds like their sales team has been tasked with trying to pay attention to accounts that would be great candidates for upsells or cross-sells to other products, but they're having difficulty choosing or finding which products that are similar to ones that their customers already using to suggest similar ones. Does that make sense?
Kind of. I'm going to try to restate it. And then if you want to clarify, person, that works too. But I think that the issue is sort of like in this process of making it easy for a customer to indicate that they want to buy other stuff.
No, I think they were looking for a way to like have it pop up in their CRM somehow to like suggest like products.
Interesting. That one can get really challenging. I can tell you what we've seen for kind of other flows for other customers before is we've done some components with formulas or flow. I mean, you can get really, really complicated with like Salesforce side solutions, right? Like if you wanted to launch a flow to a salesperson based off of what product someone's purchased and have sort of suggested bundles and populate some of those pieces, you can certainly do that. I think that the best way to kind of dip your toe in something like that is to sort of do either formula driven suggestions or populate something on the CRM record for, here's a recommended additional product. I think depending on your number of SKUs and everything else that can get really messy. I honestly am trying to think of other pieces on that as much as yeah, I think recommended products can get really complicated is the truth, depending on sort of what your SKU blend is. But if you want to reach out to me, I'm more than happy to chat with you about that individually as well. We'll drop our emails and some of the other stuff in the chat.
The last one we have, unless anybody else has questions, Zach, you'll be happy with this. It's another handoff question.
Hey, like that phrase already.
Their sales team is trying to do a better job of handing off their newly closed account to either a new account manager or customer success manager, but making it so they don't lose data in the transition.
Yeah, I feel like there's a meme here with handoffs. Justin's a sports guy. Like just handoffs are such the concept here. You know, a football handoff. Man, there's an opportunity probably for a form there somewhere. But not losing data, that that to me speaks to the value of the process, especially when we're dealing with Salesforce customers and using that data prefill. Because for me, anytime I'm supplying information, I don't want to have to re-enter information. So if you can present me pre-filled information based on what we already know about that situation, that customer, that account, and it's more of a review, verify, update, those kind of forms, whether you're talking about an internal user or an external user, are going to have literally like 100 times the response rate, the success rate. So when I hear, not lose information, I think data prefill, and that's a bread and butter use case for Formstack.
We actually do something with Formstack that I think is highly applicable here. So we use Salesforce as sort of like a ERP project management type of solution. And so one of the things that we do is we have two teams. So we have our RevOps team and we have our demand gen team. And as things are going forward in the space, we're seeing like the lines there get really blurry. But something that we run into a lot is we start with the customer. They're primarily working with our RevOps function. A lot of their needs start to become much more demand gen driven. And then we're sort of like, okay, well, we want to transfer this to a different project lead on the demand gen side. And so we have a flow on our Salesforce engine where if you go and we can launch sort of a handoff process, and then have a form that is pre-populated, and they can enter in the information of here's the pain points for the customer, here's why we're transferring it, here's the work items that are coming up over the next couple of months, and then all of that writes back into the CRM. And the value, the reason that we ended up doing that was because what happened before was this would sort of happen somewhat organically. And then we would say, oh, okay, there's a new project owner. And those two people would have had a conversation around what the customer is trying to do and why. And no one else has any clue what's happening. And so being able to capture those pieces and run those processes, I think the key here is the write back to the core CRM. And I think the more you manage those through formalized processes, whether it's Formstack, pure CRM driven, like how you're managing it, I think the key here is to anytime you're capturing information about a customer, your relationship, the service that you're trying to deliver, their product experience, capture that and automate part of that process, which I think Formstack excels at. We use it a lot for those types of internal processes as well. So any other questions from our audience side, Caitlin, or are we at the end of the queue?
That is the end of the queue.
Cool. Well, we'll go ahead and we'll move to wrap. If you want to chat anything, RevOps, or I guess we're going to, sorry, I apologize. I was going to immediately close in terms of things that I think for you guys to tackle next, if you're looking through. So if you start to manage some of these initial sales process pieces, these are elements that we think you can start to look at next, right? So I won't necessarily read through all of these. We'll send out the recording. Feel free to grab a screenshot, but I think make sure that you're advancing all of the time. I think we look at, here's your sales process. It's not done now. Reevaluate it, relook at it, make sure that you're removing that friction, and it should be evolving alongside the rest of your business as well. In terms of sort of closing out to these guys, I know we jumped through some initial questions. If we have some information here, hit these guys up on LinkedIn. For me, feel free to email me directly. Happy to chat anything, demand gen, RevOps, sales process, some of those pieces. If you want to sort of jam and talk really cool stuff on the Formstack side, I'll let you reach out to these guys. Justin and Zach, what should people reach out to you guys for?
Yeah, reach out to us about any of these topics. Data collection, no code, citizen automation, document automation, digital signature. and general collaboration in the SaaS space.
Cool. Well, thanks so much for coming, guys. We appreciate it. And we'll send out the recording to everyone that registered and was unable to attend, and for live attendees. Thanks for bringing your questions. It was awesome. Bye, everybody.